Welcome to the Compass TV show. So excited to be here. We're enjoying, as we're recording this, a beautiful day at the end of August, and the state fair is going on. But today we have a very special guest with us, and I'm really excited to just go on this journey with her and also to learn as we have a conversation with Terry Hennon today. So Terry, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's good to have you here. So we're going to start, I always say, with the easy questions.
Okay.
So, Terry, we know you're married to Jack,
Right.
or at least I know that because you come down to the center on a frequent basis. But let's start before that. Where did you grow up?
I was born by Marshall, by Ghent, moved to Marshall when I was about 5,
Okay.
got married, moved back to Ghent,
Okay.
retired, we moved back to Marshall about 14 years ago.
Okay.
So I haven't really gone too far in life.
Well, you've probably taken many trips besides that, but your residency has always been in the area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where did you go to high school?
I graduated from Central Catholic High School in Marshall, and this past weekend we just celebrated our 60th class reunion.
Wow, 60 years.
That's good.
Yeah, so you guys do anything fun for that 60th class reunion?
Well, we had a pre-party on Friday night, and then we had another party on Saturday night. So,
so
it was kind of fun to see some of the classmates we haven't seen for a few years.
Okay. Do you have a lot of your classmates still around and active?
There's quite a few around this area.
Okay.
So we get together off and on. It's fun.
Okay, good. That's wonderful. It's always fun when you can get together with the old classmates and reminisce after you get past, I think, past some of those high school years, and you're just more interested in how things are going in life rather than who's doing what. And
many people have matured a lot.
Yeah, nice way of saying it, Terry.
Right.
Yeah, they have matured a lot.
Right.
But today I think we're on a different topic, and so today we're going to talk about Parkinson's, and it's a disease that has affected you very closely. Your husband, Jack, has Parkinson's. So my first question for you is, if you had to tell someone what is Parkinson's, what would you tell them?
Well, Parkinson's is a disease that affects you in different ways, and it affects people very differently. Some have tremors, some don't.
Okay.
My husband's had it for about 15 years now.
Okay.
And the area that we lived in around Ghent, there's about 6 people in about a 3-mile radius that have Parkinson's.
Oh, wow.
So Dr. Martin was checking on this to see if there was any connection with like water or chemicals or what, but he hasn't come up with anything right yet.
Okay, that's very interesting. That's a very small area with so many people that have contracted the disease.
Right.
So let's go back. I found it interesting that you shared that with Parkinson's, and I think this is probably, I would say, one of the myths that is out there, that if you have Parkinson's, you shake.
Yes, that's not so.
Yeah.
Some people have an internal, they feel like they're shaking internally, and not,
there's no outward movement.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I find that a very interesting fact. I can honestly say I did not know that, because I honestly thought that typically you start with a little tremor or a shake, and then people would be perhaps then at that point suspicious of Parkinson's.
There's different symbols or symptoms that people have. Some have kind of like a blank look on their face. Our daughters tease my husband. They say, "You've got that look of the headlight, deer look in the headlights." And some people don't swing their arms when they walk.
Okay.
There's just different. Some shuffle their feet.
Okay.
There's a lot of different symptoms.
So, yeah. So I'm sure you would tell them that if any of them are suspicious, to talk with their medical doctor.
It's a hard disease to diagnose.
Okay.
Because of all the different symptoms. Sometimes they'll call it Parkinsonism, if you have so many of the symptoms.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how they start out with Parkinsonism.
Parkinson, boy, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Parkinsonism. So they're basically saying you got enough of the symptoms that we believe you have it,
Right.
but we haven't done the testing to diagnose.
Because there really isn't a true test for it.
Okay.
So it's very difficult for doctors to diagnose it.
Okay.
I know my husband was going to the doctors for a couple of years before they labeled it as Parkinsonism.
Okay. Well, let's go back. Let's talk about Jack and when you guys were dealing with this and he was trying to figure it out over those 2 years. What was going on in those days? What were some of the symptoms that perhaps you can remember from 15 years ago?
Yeah.
That's a little while ago.
Well, I'd say one of them was he was finding it harder to move.
Okay.
His muscles were tighter.
Okay.
When
you say muscles to move, are you talking like his arms, his legs, his torso, all of them, some of them?
I don't know how exactly to describe it, but yeah, you just don't move with the ease that you used to.
Okay. And that's therefore then how you get the shuffle or some with the arm swing.
Correct.
Yep, because they can't just walk with that gentle swing. It has to be the full swing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one thing they keep saying is you've got to keep moving.
Okay.
Exercise is a very important thing with Parkinson's.
Okay.
There's different programs now. They're recommending boxing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we have a program in Marshall for the boxing.
Okay.
Some of the people that have the Parkinson's are involved in that.
Yeah.
Then there's another program called Big and Loud.
Okay.
Where they do exercises, and the loud is for their voices, because that's another thing with Parkinson's. You kind of lose your voice.
Okay.
And so you've got to use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. And I imagine the exercises you're talking with, it makes me go back to think that a lot of them are like large movements.
Right.
You know, like the big, or just the boxing, it's a big movement.
I think people with Parkinson's a lot of times think that they're moving and doing big exercises, but they really aren't. So they over-exaggerate the movements.
Okay.
And
so that's part of the exercise, is to over-exaggerate. Can you share a little bit on the boxing here in Marshall? Do you know, is it where it's at?
It's, I gotta think of Joy Borbum.
Okay.
Is the one who has the boxing.
Okay.
And the ones who are involved in it say it's a very good program.
Right.
She does more than just boxing. It's other exercises also that they do. And
okay.
Yeah.
But she has really focused on exercises for those with Parkinson's in specific.
Right, correct.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, good. So with Jack, you're sharing with me that as he discovered he had the disease, it was more, he didn't have the ease of movement in his muscles.
Right.
So for 2 years, you guys went through that process. And I'm completely amazed with both of you as you come down to the center and you're there. I don't see the, oh, woe is me, or I have this disease. It's always, oh, it's a great day. And I think that's part of working with a chronic disease.
Right.
And so as you were going through that 2-year process, did you have moments where you're going, really, can we not just figure this out so we can know, okay, this is what we have, now I know what I can do?
Right. Jack has a very good attitude with his Parkinson's. He says he feels really good when he goes to the senior center or the adult community center and plays cards. It's good to get your mind off of your own illness and get involved with other people. Right. And everyone down there is so gracious and so helpful that it's just a fun place to be.
Oh, good, good. And I think that's important too. I think with any of us, if we stay home for so many days, then we begin
Right.
I think people tend to think, oh, wait, this isn't going quite right, or I don't really like that. But if you get out with people, it tends to bring more of a smile on your face and
very true.
lift your spirits in general. So,
very true, very true.
So along with you guys going through that diagnosis, and since you found that the center has been one of those sources where he can lift his spirits.
Very good. And his mind is very sharp.
Yes.
The Parkinson's does not seem to affect his mind.
Okay.
Some people, they get dementia with the Parkinson's, but no, he remembers things much better than I do.
That's interesting. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about your journey with that, but let's hop over to the Parkinson support group. Okay. We have one here in Marshall.
Right.
And when is it held?
We meet the first Wednesday of each month at the Adult Community Center at 3:30 in the afternoon. Yeah. And it's usually for about an hour.
Yep.
And sometimes it's 2 hours. We try and get speakers in every once in a while. And it's just a time of sharing. Yep. Makes a person feel like you're not the only one that has it.
Yep.
And we welcome anyone, and we do encourage the spouse to come with them.
Right.
And
or the caretaker. If
or the
caretaker,
right. And it's a great time to share. Yeah. You learn from others. And
I think that's such a critical piece with support groups, that when you go to the medical community, there's so much medical-wise. I can give you this option or this option or this option. But then you need to go home and live within your home with your family and in the community. And when you do that, I think you find little things that, hey, I tried this and this really worked well for me.
Right. Yeah.
And so by coming to the support group and saying, hey, I found out that if we do this in this method, it went 15 minutes quicker than if we had gone with the old method, or various different things like that. And that's part of the reason for the support group.
Correct. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
We have someone in our group. Well, we have about, I'd say there's probably about 35 people in the area.
Yes.
That have
and
Parkinson's.
I think that number, for people who don't know anybody with Parkinson's, there's 35 people that come down pretty regular to that monthly meeting.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, 35 that are coming, and there's I'm sure many that are diagnosed that are not coming yet.
Some people really don't seem to want to admit that they have Parkinson's, so or they don't want other people to know.
No. Yep.
But it's really better if they tell people that they have Parkinson's.
Right.
Because then people will understand why they're doing certain things.
Right. But, have the rigid moment or the shake. Yeah.
We have one of the people who have Parkinson's just about a month ago received something new that's on the market. It's called Duopa.
Duopa.
And it's in a pump that they have a tube that leads directly to the intestine with the medication.
Oh, okay.
And after a day or 2 days, this fellow said that he could really feel the difference. What it does, it dispenses the medication over a period of day regularly.
Oh, so it's like kind of more like a constant medication. Instead of you take it, it goes up and then it drops down. Okay.
Otherwise, you really have to watch. Taking of the medication is very important. You should not take you should not eat for an hour after you take the medication.
Oh, wow.
Or you should wait an hour before.
So there's a 2 hour. You better not be hungry for 2 hours, right, Terry? But if you're hungry, it's not the time to take.
But our schedule is very varied, so that's something that Jack really has to kind of watch, is when you eat, because we eat at different times. We're not on a fixed schedule.
Okay. So then his medications kind of fit within that, how your day is going and how it works.
Yeah. And you don't want to have a lot of protein when you take this medication, because it just kind of, the medication doesn't work as well.
Okay.
So they don't want you eating a lot of red meat or other foods with a lot of protein.
Is there anything else with Parkinson's as far as dietary goes?
Well, it's good to eat a lot of vegetables.
Okay.
And
that's good for all of us.
right.
Not that we all do that, but that's good for all of us. Yes.
I'm even experiencing having a garden this year, which I haven't gardened for 14 years. And
okay.
It's kind of fun eating all these fresh vegetables.
Yeah, definitely. Does Jack have favorite vegetables he likes?
Oh, he's very easy to cook for.
Oh, well, that makes
Not
it
a bit fussy.
Even better.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So we're talking that big exercise, big movements, exaggerated movements,
Right.
and watching when you take your medication.
Right.
And then you share that there's this Duopa pump that has just come out.
Right.
And then we're talking about this Parkinson support group that as you've gathered, there's been at least 35 of you coming.
Well, there's not always that many that
but
come. It
there's
varies.
35, yeah, within that group. I'm curious, because I'm at the center when you guys are having that meeting. I don't always sit in on your meetings. Very seldom do I sit in on your meetings, because you guys have a wonderful support group going. But I often hear so much laughter. What is going on?
Well, when you get a bunch of people together, that usually helps. We started out, when we first started meeting, one of the parts of our homework was to bring a joke.
Okay.
Well, Jack remembers jokes very well. I
Right,
don't.
right.
But yeah, sometimes we share jokes. It's just good to be upbeat. I think you have to have a very positive outlook
Right.
when you have an illness.
Right.
You just feel better.
It helps you to feel better, and it makes your days go
Correct.
smoother.
Yeah. Right.
Correct.
Right.
So you've been sharing that it's been about 15 years since Jack has had this. So can you share what has that journey been like from the 2 years where you didn't have it diagnosed, then you had it diagnosed, to what have been some changes? What has happened? Have you guys made some adjustments along that journey?
Oh, yeah. We used to be able to plan things or travel more. We enjoyed traveling, but we don't travel too far anymore.
Okay.
It's the schedule, his sleeping schedule isn't consistent.
Okay.
And it's hard to be ready to go at 7 o'clock if you're on a bus trip when you haven't had a good night's sleep.
Sure.
So we've adjusted to different ways with the traveling.
Okay.
See what else? I don't know, I guess gradually you just learn to deal with it.
Right.
And
As each thing comes, it's just a new change for that day or that month and
Right.
week, and you just take it as they come.
well, even hour to hour, sometimes
Okay.
people will change. You'll feel really good one minute, and the next minute you might not feel so good. So
Oh, wow. Wow. I didn't realize it would change
yes, it does.
very quickly.
And maybe for some people it doesn't. But
Okay.
but
I think that's a very important point, and I know we talked about this before we came today, is that you're sharing that, number one, you're not an expert.
right.
And number two, that you're just sharing your journey as you have walked through the journey with Parkinson's.
Right.
But your journey is only your journey.
Right.
And that everybody who has Parkinson's, it's so uniquely different for each person.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So, and have you guys ever had the discussion, and I know you've had some amazing speakers in over the time, but have you had the discussion with your group that is it normal or typical that as you get Parkinson's, that dementia tends to become one of the parts of it?
Well, for some people, I don't think for everybody, but for some people, it is dementia
Okay.
with it.
And do they always get it? Have you noticed within the group, do they get it early on, or is it later in the Parkinson's, or is that something that just depends, varies too?
I would say that varies.
Okay.
Depends.
So that really varies on the person again also.
Okay,
And I think that's really important. I think that's a big point that you made, that it's a category of disease, but it's also very uniquely different for each person. And maybe the way people can relate to that is each person who gets cancer, their cancer
It's different.
diagnosis and treatment is so very different depending upon what it is or exactly where they're at with that.
Right. You've probably heard a lot about the deep brain surgery.
The deep brain surgery,
There's been a few people in our group who have had it.
Okay.
There was a fellow from Montevideo that came and talked to us, and he was amazing. What he told us how he was before he had this was unbelievable.
So how was he before?
He could hardly get into bed sometime.
Okay.
And he just...
So he was really stiff and rigid with his muscles as a body. Then he had the surgery.
And it's quite intense, but they've changed a lot of things. I think they've improved the surgeries. But yeah, he's doing very well.
Yeah, much more mobile now.
Right, and he kind of is very, how should I say, he designs different things that he could do to make it better for him.
Okay.
His walking and so forth. But we haven't seen him now for a few months. I think he's gotten really busy, but...
Oh, sure, with sharing his journey with that surgery.
And then a few others have had the surgery, and a fellow from Russell has had this, and one from Taunton. There's been a few of them that have had the deep brain.
Right in the area. The other question that we haven't touched on is it genetic or hereditary?
Well, they always said it wasn't hereditary, but it seems like there's some families that there's 2 or maybe even 3 people that have it.
Okay.
So I think there's tendencies towards it.
Okay.
But
so you're saying if you have it in your family, to be aware of it, that it's not hereditary as far as the medical community knows.
Right.
But in some families, it appears that it's hereditary.
Correct. Right.
So just really be aware of that. Next question. What are some things that, as Jack comes into the center, of course I know what to do, but what are some things that if you meet someone who has Parkinson's or know someone, what are some things a person can do to be helpful, but not make them feel like they necessarily have a disease?
Okay.
I think it's a really kind of fine gray line.
Okay. Well, Jack likes to play cards a lot. And sometimes his hands aren't working quite as good as what he thinks they should be. He hates to hold up the game, so they'll offer to deal cards for him, and they're very helpful. They're just very helpful.
Right. So it sounds to me like there may be some large movements or small movements that maybe become more difficult. So offering, hey, can I help you with that? Would be a kind gesture if you know someone with Parkinson's. And if they say no, that's fine. Just be patient and give them the time to actually do that movement and do that process. So Jack has had it for 15 years now.
Correct, right.
What's a typical day like for him?
It varies.
I like that.
That varies. Sometimes he feels really good when he wakes up in the morning.
Okay.
And then sometimes he's up and will have coffee with me, and then he might go back to bed.
Okay.
He could have a cup of regular coffee and then go back to bed and go to sleep.
And everybody out there is going, really? How does that work, right?
But, and then he might sleep for a couple hours, and then usually he gets going again, and we'll do things in the afternoon.
Okay.
I know sometimes when he's had a really big day, he's tired, slower moving at night, but he really tries to keep going, and he keeps a very positive attitude about it.
So you're telling me that when he has a very active and extremely busy day, then that evening or perhaps the next morning, he may be a bit slower to get going again. But otherwise, he knows that, and it goes very well. You guys just adapt. Okay, we know we're going to have a really big day tomorrow. We're going to do some traveling. We're going to be visiting, or we're going to be doing this activity, which is out of like your normal schedule, so to speak, of activity. So then that may then impact that evening or the next morning, is what you're telling me.
It could, yes.
It could. It may or may not. So it's always an unknown.
He likes challenges.
Okay. So let's see if I can do this and see how tomorrow treats me.
He likes to keep his mind busy And he likes to keep busy doing things.
Yeah, that's really good. What are some words of wisdom for anybody that you have out there that would be listening, that maybe they're on the start of getting diagnosed with Parkinson's, that maybe are in the journey? You guys are 15 years in it. What are some words of wisdom for them?
I just say keep a positive attitude. I think attitude makes a big difference in your life.
Okay.
And we try and be helpful. I don't know that much about, the Parkinson's, but we'll try and help anyone and we really encourage them to come to our meetings.
Okay, and let's share again, when are those meetings?
The first Wednesday of each month at the Adult Community Center at 3:30.
Yep. And it's a good time. They really do truly have a good time when they get together.
We even bring snacks. We have snacks while we have our meeting.
Yep. And it's usually homemade baked snacks. So that's even worth the journey if you're looking for a snack in the afternoon and an outing.
Right.
And I think you also hit a couple other pointers as we've been talking. And I think that's true with any disease that you have. And I think it's difficult for some people, but to admit that you have it, so then you can understand it and deal with it.
Correct.
Perhaps makes the journey a little bit easier.
It's easier if people know what you have.
Yeah.
Right.
So, well, Terry, it's been really fun chatting with you.
Oh, thank you, Barb.
Tell Jack we're thinking of him as he takes this journey, and I know I'll see both of you at the center with smiles on your faces.
Okay, well, we'll try. We enjoy coming there.
And be sure to join the Parkinson's group the first Wednesday of the month. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Barb.